Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon session. Thank you for joining us today at this panel discussion, and we'll talk about citizenship and community engagement. So my name is Eglė, and I'm very happy to guide our conversation. And today we will explore the role of higher education in fostering active participation on social responsibility and sense of belonging within the communities that universities are part of. And we will also look how higher education can promote democratic values, support inclusive partnerships, and address both local and global sustainability challenges. So, and I'm delighted to introduce our three panelists. I'm not sure all of them are here. I see Oshin, Ghiotto, Isabel, Menezes, and Joshua Amponsam. I'm not sure Joshua is here. Not yet. So I will start our discussion from the panelists who we have in the audience. So and I will start ask you to introduce shortly yourself, and I would like to start from Oshin Ghiotto. Could you please say a few words about yourself before we're going to the deeper discussion about citizenship and community engagement?
Hi, my name is Oshin. I'm a working student at Green Office Ghent, where I'm responsible for volunteering. So I'm the volunteer coordinator. I also host a lot of network events, and I'm part of the Green Office Movement network calls. And I'm also responsible for some alumni parts as well. So that's in a nutshell it.
Thank you very much, Oshin. And Isabel, may you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, hi. It's a very big pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. And I'm Isabel Menezes. As you can see, the good thing about Zoom is that we know nobody forgets anyone's name. So it's for me, it's great. It's great to tell them that I have to share. But well, I'm from the University of Porto. I've been working there for quite a while and doing research and teaching in the fields of political education, citizenship education, and civic and political participation, mainly of young people, but also from other age groups, including seniors and children. So the whole lifespan of civic and political participation.
Thank you very much. We have very nice panelists. It's not gender balanced, only women, but I expect that we will have a great discussion. Jonas, you want to say something? Yeah.
Maybe a brief input. So Josh is at COP in Belém, and I'm trying to figure out where he is, but he might join later, just for your information.
Okay, thank you. So I will go through a question by question, and please feel free if you want to skip one question and do not want to answer, you can feel absolutely free. But I would like to hear the reaction of both of you to the same questions, but if you want to add something more, also very welcome. So our first question is, what examples do you see from your own experience where communities inside or adjacent to a higher education context have been actively empowered? And what do you see as success factor? If you saw such in the morning was said, but sometimes it is easier to talk about success factors. You can also to add some not success factors as well. So may I ask to start from Oshin?
Okay, so when I just started at the Green Office Ghent, that was in 2023. I started in the second semester, and we had just gotten the news that the rector back then might want to cut most of our budget and eventually abolish the Green Office in general, which is also a reason why I'm sharing this, is because it's both education and scary times, right? And we really had to transform our thinking, really need to strategically think out a way to campaign ourselves, to make ourselves known at not only Ghent University, but also throughout the city of Ghent. So we could really get people on our side and show what we mean to the university, what we could contribute to their own personal lives as well. And so that was a moment where we really got together more than 700 people that have helped us with an open letter, people from all kinds of other organizations in Ghent, but also other cities in Flanders and even Wallonia that helped to spread our message through social media. We also got a lot of links with newspapers as well. So we actually made the news in several different ways. And that was just a really nice moment to see what we can achieve when we are all working together. So it was students, it was professors, but it was also just general people that don't have anything to do with the university at all. So eventually now we have a new rector, very good. And we've been, we are safe for the coming years. And at the moment we are even celebrating. So we did a little, yay, we're still existing party last year. And we are currently at our 10-year anniversary this academic year. So I'm very glad to be able to still be here and let you all know this. And when it comes to success factors, I think it was really important to let people know about the urgency, which was also something that was discussed this morning. So people need to really feel that they have an impact and that they can actually see change themselves. So you need to let people really know, why should I care? What is the gap in my life? What are you exactly doing to fill this up? Which we really wanted to show to a lot of new students as well, because they didn't really have the time yet to get to know us. Also, a really personal approach. Lots of people, if you only do things on social media or you only work within university, we also really try to go out on the streets to actually talk to people. And there was even like one of my colleagues just walked around Ghent with a big QR code on his front and his back and just like explaining like, hey, you know what this QR code does? It shows you the open letter and we're the Green Office Ghent and we're doing so much for sustainability in the city. And that really worked very well. Also just the freedom to choose and the safety to reject. We really wanted to make sure, so for example, when we went to pitch ourselves in specific classes, which we had done since years, but now with different approach of please also support us because we might not be here next year. We really wanted to give people the choice to support us and not pressure them. A lot of it is making people feel like they have agency to choose whether or not they want to support us, instead of just pleading and begging them for support, so to say. So the safety to reject is also, you don't have to support us, but if you do, it might be beneficial for you as well. Which is often something that a lot of people struggle about. I mean, when you have people on the streets that are holding up all kinds of signs to like, yeah, support this cause, I think most people will just like walk by because they feel like they kind of get harassed and they get kind of guilted into helping or into donating money. Well, we really wanted to make sure that people wanted to support us out of their own will. So yeah, really look at what is in it for them. And not just think about we should present ourselves and what we think is important. Also really think about what would they find important. So we made sure that the communication was different depending on the audience we were trying to reach. So the open letter towards students and towards staff, towards people in different working fields, all kinds of different letters we made. So as to really personalize it a lot.
Thank you very much, Oshin. And Isabel, maybe you would like also to add to this question as well? from your experience?
Yes, well, let me tell you that some of you might know Porto. Porto is it's Portugal's second city, as in all second cities have a similar trends. We all think that we are the ones who really work in the country, and of course the rest of the country, the capital city, it's a lot of business and stuff, but they don't do the work. And this also has an impact in the university. We are a university where the faculty of engineering is really big and really important. But this also has an implication on the way the city goes and the way the university goes, in the sense that you have a lot of focus on, if you want, the applied knowledge, and this implies a connection with the community, which is on the whole very positive, in the sense that, of course, you have internships where students interact with people in the community, several institutions, and this is true in engineering, but it's also true in social sciences and education. So you have close connections with schools, you have close connections with institutions, but still, this doesn't mean that we think about the way we interact and we affect our close community. So let me give you a short example. When our new building at the Faculty of Psychology and Education, from which I am from, was created, it was created in an area of the city where you have very close, really our neighbors, is a municipality neighborhood, if you want. So a block of buildings who are there for many years, much before the time of the university, and they are just close to our building, just next door from our building. So what is the first thing that the people who finished the building of the university did? They developed a fence, and the fence had a consequence. It prevented people from the neighborhood to directly accessing the metro station, and they had to go round the street to get to the metro. This obviously tells you that sometimes universities do very stupid things for no reason whatsoever. So someone thought that this was a good idea, this was nice, to create a fence between the university and the people next door. And this was an interesting message to start with all the students and professors that were coming to this new building. I must tell you that it took us a couple of years, and we decided to do with our students a very simple thing. It was really an event on a Saturday morning that we called Neighbors, Please Come and Visit. And we organized several things, activities for kids, activities for older people, students from the pharmaceutical degree came to test for cholesterol and all this kind of stuff, which is obviously interesting. People open up workshops to discuss whatever work opportunities, etc., etc. And the result is that people came, initially a little bit frightened. Like Oshin was saying, it is necessary to get out of your office, go into the street and talk to people to convince them to come. And once they came, the implication is that now, for instance, I go in the streets and I know people there, so they greet me. So it's like living in a small neighborhood again. So because people, at least, they know some of us. Does this mean that the impact of the university in the communities is, it takes only one activity to make everything good? No. But it means also that universities, as powerful institutions, should be aware of the impact they create in their community. And that, for me, is the first important thing, is that we are aware of there's a theorist in Brazil, that talks about lugar de fala, the place for whom, or if you want standpoint, if you want to go to other feminist theories, the idea that you have to be aware of the place where you're speaking from. And this idea that universities must be aware that they are powerful institutions, and if they interact with communities, and particularly in deprived areas of the cities, they must act as they pray. So it's a thing of saying, okay, you preach a lot about equality, cognitive justice, whatever, but why don't you start acting as such in your interaction with the community? So I would say that this is for me the first factor of success. So this is important to do to begin with, to be aware of the power that you have, and to be aware that if you want to share power, to open up the doors, you have to take this seriously to begin with. So I think
Thank
I
you
will
very much,
close.
Isabel. So many reactions in the chat from your thoughts. It's very nice. As Michael said in the morning, you can also jump to our discussion if you cannot sit so quiet, so be active. Please raise hand and you can join our discussion as well. So if no hands yet, I would move to the next question. By the way, I am also from the second city. Kaunas is the second city of Lithuania. So yeah, so very nice to hear that. My second question is, where do you see opportunities or challenges for higher education to foster an engaged community for sustainable development, to be beyond the ivory tower, how to go to the streets? What are these opportunities, or why sometimes it's so difficult? So, Oshin, could you start, please?
So what we try to do is that a lot of the times when we are hosting events, it used to mostly be at the university itself or at the Green Hub. But of course, for people that are either not part of the university itself, or just in general, we'd like to go to other buildings as well to give it less the feeling of yet another lecture. It's not going to be you sitting and listening. We really want to co-create things. So we are putting in a lot of more efforts to organize workshops. And for example, we have a summer school, which is an entire week of workshops, lectures. But this year we also really wanted the participants to co-create something themselves. And we gave a small introduction to their projects, and at the end of the week, they all just came up with something. We also told them it wasn't supposed to be something that was already done. It wasn't supposed to be a presentation like in class, but just like, show us your ideas, what you talked about this week, what you learned. And so there were different groups. It was documentary, it was about food, it was about education and how to transform education. And it was really interesting to see what all these people from all different backgrounds, different countries had to say about that. So that's something we try to do. And also lots of excursions. So there's so many places in Ghent that have to offer interesting insights about sustainability that aren't linked to the university at all. And then we try to have some excursions with students. For example, the Koer is a place that has alternative housing. It has all kinds of workshops for people. Yeah. So also the climate forest, for example, actually going to a forest and seeing the impact of climate change in the moment, and actually not just in a textbook. You're feeling the leaves, you're standing on the ground, you're doing something with it, especially when you're not all from the same field of study that has to do with natural sciences. I think that's very important as well. And trying to invite people to us I heard something very nice from Lancaster, for example. They are trying to host some crochet workshops, and for that they have invited all kinds of mothers and grandmothers from all over the city to come to them and show the youngsters to do it. We are also linked to, in Dutch it's called aromas, which is a pun because omas means grandmas. And it's, for example, elderly in Ghent and the surrounding cities in Ghent that cook together with food waste to reduce food waste, and with the little scraps with other students to combat loneliness, to learn from each other, to learn to cook more plant-based as well. So that's also something we really try to do.
Thank you very much for very inspiring examples from Ghent. And Isabel, could you add also, where do you see these opportunities to foster community for sustainability?
Well, we have been working in a very specific project across the North region, so not only in Porto, but in the North region in Portugal. And it's interesting because what we try to do is to apply tools from community intervention to climate change education. So what we did was to use what we call community climate profiling, which implies that you look at your community from the perspective of schools with whom we cooperate. Kids in this community, they look at their community and the impact of climate change on their local level. This implies sometimes looking at the history of the community, talking to members of their family or seniors to try to understand what kind of changes, if at all, they feel in the life of their community. But this also implies looking at scientific data. For instance, if there is a record of temperatures from the last decades, how has this changed? Does this have an impact? How this has an impact in the economy of the community. For instance, in one particular area, you have the region of port wine, where port wine is grown, which is, by the way, is in the upper stream of the River Douro, not in Porto. But the thing is, in these communities, what kids were doing is trying to understand the implications, the fires that are more frequent now in the summer, this kind of things. And from that, in the school, we try to expand to the community. So kids, we invited activists, local politicians, people from the organizations, the state organizations in these communities, to come to school and discuss with young people what could be done in order to mitigate, to deal with these changes. This project lasted for 2.5 years, and it was very interesting. It was very interesting in the sense that kids were very engaged. So students from secondary education and lower secondary and secondary education were very engaged. And it was also very important for them to be able to discuss their ideas with local politicians, local activists, other experts that would help them consider ways in which you could make changes in the community. What was the problem for us? And this is important also to say, because these projects also have a minus. We learn from them. And the first is obviously that many times when these people come to schools, they do not necessarily take young people as as citizens in their own right. In the sense they look at them in a patronizing way, saying, oh, these kids are here. And of course, it takes time for them to understand that kids have done their homework, really, and they are very much informed about the problems of their community. But what we felt at some point is that even if this was very interesting in empowering young people in thinking about sustainability issues in their communities, the adult part was always less touched by this kind of projects. So we are now starting a new project where we will try, I can tell you about this more in 1.5 years, I hope, when we've tried to engage not only children and adolescents, but also adults, including migrant communities, whom we know are generally excluded from this kind of processes. And what we want to create is local assemblies where all of these people come together and will be engaged in a discussion of how you can mitigate the impact of climate change in their communities. As I say many times, everything can go wrong, but I can tell you more if everything went wrong, or in the end it was great fun. I'm for sure it will be great fun, and for sure we'll learn a lot. But I think also that this implies that we have to recognize that we do a lot as universities in empowering young people in relation to these issues. But we have to start considering how we can engage adults in the community and adults in positions of power in relation to these same issues, because it's not enough, I think, to create critical consciousness among young people, because we know the younger generations are very much aware and knowledgeable about this kind of issues. But when it comes to those who are in situations that vote, that make decisions, that are in positions of power, then we do have a problem. And we have to start, I think, to consider systematically how we can produce change in these adults and these responsible adults. And I think universities also have an important role here.
Thank you very much. So many reactions also in the chat, but I can see questions. Jonas, do you have some questions or only comments?
No, it's mainly comments at the moment.
Mainly comments. Okay, thank you very much.
Many positive comments.
And now I want a bit to shift our discussion inside university. If one, if we want to go to society and to be open, we also have to have a culture of belonging inside university. And maybe do you have some secrets how to create this belonging inside, and to this between students, lectures, and staff, to have this good atmosphere and good climate, because if you want to be open, also you have to have something inside, also some coherence, so maybe you can share some thoughts how to have this, and maybe start with Oshin as well.
So something we do both at the Green Office, for example, during the Green Office weekend, when we get to know each other first at the beginning of the year, but also throughout all of our events, we have household rules. Those are 11 rules, and I can put the file in the chat in a moment. And these rules are just, for example, to acknowledge that people are coming from different backgrounds, but to not to take that into account, to make sure that if you're someone that easily speaks, to make space for people that have a harder time speaking up. Also, we try to, for most of our events, to include trust people, so people that you can come to when you have a problem, to make sure to take into account different religious backgrounds as well. So if we know there's something big coming on for specific religions, we will take that into the info pack and make sure that they know where the prayer rooms are. For people who are neurodivergent or people who are in a wheelchair, we try to really give all the information beforehand, how bright the room will be, how much noise there might be, which type of access they can use as an alternative way to access the building. something that's also very important, I think we call it in Dutch is navia, like the cream, which means niet invullen voor een ander. And it just actually says that you need to really ask things and not fill the gaps in knowledge by things you are assuming. So you can just assume so many things about people, but it's really important to just always, after every event we're doing, or also during, ask if people are okay with sharing things. Also always tell them that they can retract any type of, if they have said yes in the beginning of an event for pictures, but they want to retract that consent, that is also possible, that they can always talk to us and comment, or also send us emails afterwards to just say like, yeah, we wanted to, we would like to see this or this in another way. So we really try to keep the floor open, that we show people that we're all on the same level as well. It's not because we're organizing something that we're supposed to be the experts and that we know more what we're doing than they do. So we really try to show that we're together to learn from each other. Even if someone is a professor, that doesn't mean they can't learn from their students as well. And that's also really visible in those 11 rules that we have. For example, use gender neutral language so that you don't assume someone's gender. Try to also decolonialize your language as well. Be open. So at the end of events, we also keep a moment open for people to just share things. So like you all are doing now, it could be files, it could be interesting book recommendations. And in general, so I am one of the 3 people who organize events at our Green Office. I just ask my volunteers. So whenever they come to me, like, I want to be a volunteer, I also just ask, like, what are your specific interests? Do you want to host an event? And if you do, I can just help you, but I would love to just see what you come up with and where your strengths and interests are, instead of just them having to be this very passive type of volunteer and just, yeah, you go set up the chairs and you go set up the food, for example. That's something we really try to avoid. We want to really empower people to speak up and organize things themselves and share things themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it seems almost ideal atmosphere, from your examples. Yeah, but it sounds very, very nice. Isabel, could you share your experience? Because as professor, sometimes I feel not always such a nice culture as Oshin explained. So maybe what we are trying to create is, culture of belonging. So please share your experience.
Okay. Of course, when you are, Anne here was asking people in the community expect us, or our students expect us to be the ones who know. And it's true. So it's not as we are in a position of, when I enter a room, I'm expected. There are expectations about my role. Yeah. But before addressing this, which I think it's very important also to be able to be aware of this, there are also things from an institutional point of view of universities that I think are important. First, the ratio between teachers and students. Second, the growing precariousness of academic careers in universities. So when we are talking about an environment of where you generate a culture of belonging, this means that you belong to an institution. What we have more and more is a discourse about being suspicious. Where have you done your initial graduation? Where did you graduate it? Where did you done your PhD? You work in the same university? Oh, this is a proof that there is no meritocracy in your career. So this BS discourse is there, and it has implications. We are expected more and more, and as a teacher, as a professor, we are expected more and more to have more students, to engage more students. But what we also witness is the fact that students and graduate, and then they are in positions of growing precariousness with no possibility many times to find a permanent position in universities. You can tell me, okay, but this is a traditional way. Yeah, but, you know, stability, the fact that you know that you are here and that you'll probably be here in 3 years is important in the life of everyone. So it's not because we are academics that suddenly this idea that we'll change every 5 years or every 3 years is good for you. It is not. And I think that this is also important because to generate a culture of belonging in the universities also implies to generate a culture of belonging that starts in the staff. It starts in the professionals of higher education that are there, but it also engages the researchers, it also engages the teachers. So if you at some point feel that you don't have, everything is pressuring you to publish or perish, you have to do an application for another proposal for research, and unless you gain an application, you will be fired by the end of the year, then tell me, how is it possible to create a culture of listening and honestly, we try surely our best in all our situations, but it is true that the fact that you have more structured and permanent positions in terms of labor conditions in universities, this also helps. And I think that this is the first thing. It's not that because there are stable positions, this will guarantee that there will be a culture of belonging and inclusion. And Oshin already mentioned several issues that we in universities also have to be aware of and being authentic about. One thing that Anne also touched is this idea that, yeah, people expect me to be the one who knows. But if I invite people, including students, to classes, there should be also moments where I open up to discussions, where I really do what universities are about. Universities are about open discussion. Universities are about critique. Universities are about the possibility that you can imagine and think freely. And I wonder if we are actually taking this mandate of universities into account nowadays with our pressure to do many other things. But the thing is, if you don't have the professionals who have the time to invest and the security to invest in this kind of relationships, many times they will go for the faster track in terms of teaching and in terms of interaction with the students. And I think this is a problem for education. So at some point, it's important also to denounce how the conditions of publish or perish, you have to have projects every 6 months, otherwise people will start to be suspicious. And this idea of fast science all the time is implicating on our universities, on the climate of universities that would allow and has allowed in the past, and in spite of all this continues to allow a sense of belonging of students to their universities and of teachers and of technicians and professionals to their universities. But I think it's not enough to define projects in a situation where you know for instance, service learning. We all know it's now very popular, that it's a very nice way of engaging students in the community, etc., etc. But the thing is, it takes time. It takes confidence on the part of teachers. It takes the confidence to be able to question their own position as someone who knows everything. Because once we get outside the classroom, good luck with knowing everything, Mr. Know-it-all, yeah? So, of course, but this implies that I have the confidence enough to be able to question myself and my own positioning. Again, I can only do this in conditions of trust, of institutional trust in relation to my own position. Otherwise, I will go for the fast track. The fast track is the things that even look very nice, appear very nice, but in the end, do not create the conditions for a real connection with the students, and therefore will probably not generate the kind of sense of belonging that we are trying to foster and discuss here.
Thank you very much for this very real picture. You know, it looks a bit pessimistic, but it's real. It's reality, yeah. And we have to be quite open. And my next question is much more difficult to talk about global inequalities. You know, how can we foster something to take into account with global inequality, and can we create some new partnership to solve this problem? And this global inequalities in general, you know, inside the university and even, as you said, in the society as well. How do you see the role of university? And Oshin, maybe you could start.
Okay, I think for me this was one of the hardest questions because it's such a broad one and also a very, very important one as well. I think it's just important that you really give the word to so lots of times when we are talking about climate crisis and how it impacts people, we should really also emphasize that it has a different impact on depending where you're coming from, what your background is, because most of the time we do acknowledge that there's difference with the global north and the global south, but we don't actually know that much. I feel like in the global north, we look at those problems as something that's far away and we know about it, but we don't actually engage that much with people that are actually from the global south. So what we're doing lately is, for example, we have a climate justice lecture series, and we invite people from so this year it's mostly Latin America to do online lectures and workshops with us. And they talk about how the climate crisis is impacting them with the Amazon, with the mining structures, with the salt extractions, which is something that we as the global north, we know about, but we don't actually know what it means to be impacted on the daily by those types of things. So we really want to have them explain it to us and show it to us. So, for example, another thing is during one of the summer school lectures, Gabriel came talking to us, and he was talking about his hometown in. He was talking about his hometown and how in Africa, many of the countries there are being flooded, and that they are moving their houses from one week to the other because of the floods. And these floods are a direct consequence of what we are doing in the global north. And instead of having this very normal presentation, he actually just decided to show us pictures. He was just showing us his holiday pictures of his hometown, of some of the neighboring towns as well. And he was showing us that, look, so this is my friend. He just kind of rebuilt his own home. And that was really interesting to see how we just see things on the news that are so far away from us, but actually seeing him talk about his own friends in his own community with the pictures was a totally different frame than what we usually see in Western media, that is like, oh, poor people, look at what they're doing. And he was like showing how they are coping with it and actual ways in which we can help instead of just trying to dump emergency packages and donate some money that we don't even know is actually going to them or not. So in a way that is a way less patronizing, way less colonial, but actually asking them like, what do you need and where do you need our help and what kind of help do you want? Not just a way of like, we're the big savior, because, well, yeah, we're actually also the ones that fucked it up in the first place. So yeah, really trying to connect and have them share their own stories. We also showed, it was during the summer school, several case studies, and these case studies were mostly about indigenous peoples this year. For example, the Wet'suwet'en in Canada. Why we don't actually know that much about it, what the media has been hiding from us, and we have broadcasted quite a lot of documentaries about that, which were made by people who are still in the communities at the moment. So by also showing those documentaries, we put in money for their projects, like directly, and that's also something very important. But like I said, I thought this was a very hard question, so I'm assuming that Isabel will be able to share a lot more about this. That is probably a bit more structured as well.
Thank you, Oshin. You did well. Yeah, it's a really difficult question, but you answered very interesting and pointing very important issues for us. Reminded some issues. So, Isabel, would you like to add something? Do you have some more experience or thoughts how to deal with that, and maybe some practical examples that you already implemented in your university? Or?
Well, I think that Oshin's examples are very important in the sense that it is important to make these issues. Someone is saying here in the commentaries, I was listening at the commentaries at the same time. It's really very interesting. And people were saying, well, it's not only about the head, but it's also from the heart. And of course, it's important to create a connection with the issues that comes also from the heart, from the knowledge of real people, how real people are affected by these issues. But honestly, I would like to go a step behind, in the sense that we have to learn a lot, and we could learn a lot as universities from the universities in at least Latin America. Honestly, I'm not going to speak about universities in other places because I know less about this, but universities in South America, Central and South America, for ages have a practice of social responsibility, which should be something we should learn from. We should listen how for years you have academics for many, many years. Orlando Fals Borda, if I write him down now. For many years, he has developed this perspective of participatory action research that comes exactly from his view that sociology, in his case, should be a militant sociology, in the sense that universities should connect to the local problems of their communities. And what happens is that you have this in Chile, you have this in Peru, you have it in Uruguay, you have it, of course, in Brazil, you have it in El Salvador, you have it in Nicaragua. You have a lot of universities who are very much connected. So this idea of community engagement on the part of universities is not a vain word. It's something that is a dimension of the mission of universities that it's taken very much seriously. So what I think is that the important thing would also for us as universities to learn from the experience of other universities where these issues are being dealt with more intensively than we have done in Europe. This is the first important thing to say. The other thing that I think that Oshin already mentioned, and Magdalene, for instance, was commenting here, is the need for you to decolonize the curriculum. So we have a lot of students that come from the global south, But the thing is, if I continue to teach the same contents, not only for the students of the global south, for the students of the global north as well, if I continue to teach them as there was no life beyond Europe, as there is no history beyond European history, there are no academics beyond European academics, honestly, I'm not doing my job well. It's not an issue of even, it's because I'm being short-sighted in the way I'm looking at the literature. There are a lot of things happening across the world. And of course, we can say, okay, of course, I will privilege this or this author very well. But it's also important to have a broad look, be open to learn from wherever knowledge comes. And knowledge, as we know, comes from a lot of places. But the thing is, I also think that we must approach this in a position, if you want, of radical equality, to be inspired by Arendt, yeah, in the sense that if individuals are radically equal in their basis, so are universities, and we cannot depart from a connection with universities from other geographical spaces in a way that, oh, we know a lot about this and now we are going to, no, we're going to teach and we're going to learn, and this possibility of interaction is very important. But it also takes courage. We are witnessing what is happening in Gaza now for more than 1 year. And many European universities, mine included, continue to be uncomfortable with taking sides, as if taking sides at some point wouldn't be essential and wouldn't be something that comes from believing what is right and defending what is right in certain situations, even if it implies taking sides. And sometimes taking sides is not the best thing that can happen to us, even if we could find out afterwards that we are wrong. But the thing is, universities sometimes are very conservative in their approach. And even if they talk a lot about decolonizing knowledge, in the sense, their attitude towards these global problems is an attitude of conservativeness, and it's an attitude of some idea of superiority that I think we must be aware and we must challenge from the beginning. And I think this is important.
Thank you very much. Maybe we have some questions in the chat, because I see it's to time and we have to finalize now this discussion, and in order to have enough time to switch to other rooms. So maybe Magdalene, please, you have a question.
Yes, I like, and I think that the topic, what Isabel said, is very important. That's the reason why in the Degoren I have developed hub series, a workshop series on how to combine the discussion on internationalization for society and how to implement sustainability at universities. And because I think it's perhaps the way to find a solution, how to because in the internationalization discussion we have a similar question, how to decolonize the curricula and so on. And also I like the term, I can send it, ecologies of knowledge, and this is something similar that to what you say, that's the reason for me it's a solution to bring together the actors in the discussion on how to decolonize the internationalization of universities and how to implement sustainability at universities. This is my comment.
Thank you very much. Do you want to react, Isabel?
The radical equality. I am inspired by Hannah Arendt, obviously, in the sense that she was speaking about the idea that we as individuals are from the beginning equals. And she has one of the loveliest, and you touched here a thing. I have a intellectual fling with Hannah Arendt for years, so this means that you've touched a sensitive point, in the sense that when she's saying that this equality implies that it also implies another thing. It implies that we are inevitably different, and politics emerge when we try to negotiate these differences. But this only happens because of this idea that we are equals. We are in a position of equality. And I think that also in universities, at an institutional level, this idea of interaction between equals must be a point. Because many times what we see is interaction between universities that, as people, sometimes assume that they have more status. Some of the universities have more status. So they, in a way, patronize other smaller universities or universities that are less well-known, etc., etc. So my pushing the concept of radical equality for universities means to recognize that we are in a position of basic equality, and that we should interact as equals, which when we are discussing North-South, but we can also, that North and South, for me, you heard me say in the beginning that I'm from the north of my country. And in my country, as in all countries, you also have a North and a South. So these concepts are interesting because we have a lot of discussions about the North and the South that sometimes are important to recognize that we have these ways of generating, if you want, hierarchy between participants, between people, between institutions. And this is something that interferes, that objects, that in a way prevents what is supposed to happen in a university: free thinking, critical thinking, engagement with diversity, which is essential, independently from where we come from. And thank you so much also for your words, your engagement. Oshin, thank you so much for also being my partner here. And I hope in Belém, Joshua is probably in the middle of the night still, but he's going out, and we hope he will do the best in COP that needs us all. And thank you, Eglė, for this lovely moderation also.
Thank you very much, Isabel. You summarized all our discussions, so I think we had very nice time. But now I would like to thank you all, Oshin and Isabel, for a very interesting discussion.